they say that Saudi Arabia is Sunni and Iran is Shia, and that's why they hate each other and they're fighting each other in this Cold War with these proxies. That is such a banal, stupid, rudimentary analysis of the Middle East. Like this again, typical garbage that you hear from people who have no clue about the Middle East in any capacity, whether it's religion or economics or geography, cultural, nothing. This is not a religious issue. It has sort of a neo-colonial tone to it, right? Like, oh, look at these savages. Look at these savages out, boy. These religious fanatics, yeah? Can't seem to calm down, can they? I mean, it's not about religion at all. The sectarian divides, if there are any, are very, very, very minimal. And if anything, it's the West that exacerbated them. You know, in Iraq, I can just give you the example of Iraq after the invasion. You had the sectarian violence, right, as they would call it in the West. Yeah, again, Iraq was... I'm not saying there was no sectarian violence in Iraq before the invasion, but you made it a fucking hell of a lot worse. You can't deny that. You didn't have, going to a mosque and a mosque being blown up or being blown up in the market. That wasn't a thing. That wasn't a thing. And when you look at Wahhabism and what the Saudis are exporting, I mean, that's enabled by the United States. So if it really were the case, the U.S. could say, okay, you need to cool it with that, but they don't. They want the Saudis to export Wahhabism. You end up with Al-Qaeda. You end up with ISIS. And the U.S., of course, itself is funding these groups. But it's not a religious issue. Hamas, the Islamic resistance in Palestine, Hamas, is Sunni. If Iran has a problem with Sunnis, why is it allied with Hamas and sending them money and weapons and support? Like, that blows your whole narrative out of the fucking water. It's got nothing to do with that at all. But this is they can't, the think tanks, the Westerners, the pundits, the commentators, the professors who are apologists for this disgusting imperialism in the Middle East, they can't come and tell you that, well, we are the ones who carved out the Middle East, the French and the British, Sykes-Picot, who carved out the Middle East based on sectarian lines. We created these borders, right, to separate the Christians from the Muslims and so on. That, they can't tell you that. They can't tell you that the CIA is funding Al-Qaeda. The CIA is the Americans are letting the Saudis export Wahhabism. They can't tell you that because then the jig is up. Then they've revealed and exposed themselves. So they have to turn it into it's a religious thing. It's not a fucking religious thing at all. At all. This kind of discrimination, you don't have that, okay? In Syria, Christians are a minority. I've never not once had someone say a rude thing to me or insult me or even, say anything bad because I'm Christian. That doesn't happen. That's not a thing. You have Christians, Sunnis, Shia, you name it, all living together peacefully. Again, that doesn't mean that the whole region is like that and there's nothing bad ever happening. No, but it's made worse by the West, and then they try to pin the entire conflict, the entire situation on, it's religion. Bullshit. That's not true. That's completely untrue. Iran has a large Jewish community, for example. Syria also had, a large Jewish community, but, Israel wanted to Israel always encourages Jews from everywhere to come there so they can increase the population and legitimize the occupation. But you have, Iranian Jews, Iranian Christians, Iranian Muslims. You have Arab Christians, Arab Jews, Arab Muslims of all sorts and all kinds. And there's, I need to explain something. It's not tolerance. It's coexistence. You're not tolerating someone else's religion like they're insufferable or they're an issue, they're a problem. It's coexistence. And you have that, and the West has always sought to fundamentally undermine that because that's how you divide and conquer the easiest way. You exacerbate sectarian divides. You make them worse, and you fuel this kind of hatred. And then you end up creating things that weren't really there. But the issue with Saudi Arabia is a regional policeman for the U.S. It's actually what Iran used to be before the revolution, right? Once Iran had the revolution in 1979, it's suddenly pushing all of these other countries and helping them to also oppose imperialism, right? Look at the resistance in Lebanon, Hezbollah, anti-Zionist, anti-imperialist group, Hamas, anti-Zionist. It's part of the resistance. Look at Syria. Iran helped Syria fight Al-Qaeda, fight these Western moderate rebels. Iran is helping Venezuela. Is Venezuela Shia? Is Venezuela a Shia country? Can you tell me? Absolutely not. Why is Iran sticking its neck out to help Venezuela? Right? So again, this just blows the whole narrative out of the water. It's really such neo-colonial bullshit. Like, oh, it's these savages fighting about religion. No, it's got nothing to do with that. Saudi Arabia is serving a regional policeman role for the U.S. And it's a bully, just like Israel is. And Iran is doing the opposite. Iran is supporting anti-imperialist movements all over the world, not just in the Middle East or West Asia. So that's the underlying principle. Iran's revolution was getting rid of the Shah, getting rid of this US puppet who was siphoning off Iran's resources, and basically the US #1 weapons customer and serving as a regional pit bull. Iran is not that. Iran is an anti-imperialist country, and it supports others in their struggle because it's a principled stance, and it costs Iran a lot. It's not free. And Saudi Arabia, that's what it is. It's responsible for a lot of these terrorist groups in Syria, in Afghanistan, Pakistan. It's been allowed to export this brand of Wahhabism, and it's given a bad name to Islam. Enabled by the U.S. The U.S. has wanted this because they use these groups then to fight the Soviets in Afghanistan or fight the Bashar al-Assad government in Syria. And they get in bed with these awful types like ISIS and Al-Qaeda. And now, as we talked about earlier, this is again separate, but in Ukraine, you see how the CIA is backing neo-Nazis. It doesn't matter. Like they'll get in bed with anyone as long as it serves their geopolitical interests. So again, it's nothing to do with the religion. That's such garbage. That's like people who think that Palestinians and Israelis are fighting because of religion. What the fuck are you smoking? Palestinians, they're also Palestinian Jews and Palestinian Christians and Palestinian Muslims. It's nothing to do with religion at all. At all. It's about get out of my house, stop bulldozing my house and killing my children. It's a movement for national liberation. That's what it's always been. It's always been about that.